The big story, the Bharat Jodo Yatra has started its Maharashtra leg. 61 days of the Bharat Jodo Yatra has covered 1,559 kilometers. Meanwhile, the Yatra is set to cover 382 kilometers in Maharashtra from the 7th to the 20th of November. MVA allies Aditya Thackeray, Sharad Pawar are expected to join the Yatra on the 9th and the 10th of November. And here's what Rahul Gandhi had to say after reaching Nanded.
एक तरफ बेरोजगारी तो दूसरी तरफ महंगाई। आपको याद होगा देश के प्रधानमंत्री कुछ समय पहले कहते थे, शिकायत करते थे कि गैस सिलेंडर 400 रुपए का हो गया। याद है आपको? याद है ना? आज कितने का है? ये देखिए, मगर आज प्रधानमंत्री शिकायत नहीं करते गैस सिलेंडर के दाम की। पहले प्रधानमंत्री जी डीजल पेट्रोल की बात करते थे, आज 100 रुपए से ज्यादा पेट्रोल का दाम है, प्रधानमंत्री कुछ नहीं कहते। और चुने हुए लोगों को, 2-3 लोगों को पूरा का पूरा फायदा सरकार पहुंचाती है।
And NDTV's Sohit spoke with Maharashtra Congress Chief Nana Patole ahead of the Bharat Jodo Yatra entering Maharashtra, which it has now this evening.
आपने देखा होगा कि इस तरह का भय निर्माण कर दिया, केंद्रीय तपास यंत्रणा का दुरुपयोग जिस तरह से हो रहा है, तो उनको भी सबको पता है कि क्या चल रहा है। देश में एक तानाशाही वृत्ति चल रही है, देश में डेमोक्रेसी अब बची नहीं है। और मेरा जिस समय में मैंने सेलिब्रिटी से बात किया तो सेलिब्रिटी ने कहा कि हम राहुल गांधी जी के साथ हैं, लेकिन हम लोगों को एक भय, हमारे में डर है और इसलिए हम राहुल जी के साथ हैं, इतना आप मैसेज दो। और हम अगर वहाँ आएंगे तो हमारे को वो लोग क्या क्या करते हैं और कुछ सेलिब्रिटी का क्या हुआ था वो आप लोगों ने देखा ही है।
Well, in the Supreme Court, by a majority view of 3:2, provided for 10% reservation to people belonging to the economic weaker section or the EWS in admissions and government jobs, and said that quota does not violate the basic structure of the Constitution.
Writ petitions are consequently disposed of.
A big win for the centre. On Monday, the Supreme Court Constitution Bench, in a majority view, has upheld the validity of the 103rd Constitutional Amendment, clearing the 10% reservation for economically weaker sections. In a landmark verdict, a 5-judge bench of the Supreme Court has held that economic status can be the sole criteria for granting reservation. 3 out of 5 judges, Justice Dinesh Maheshwari, Justice Bela Trivedi and Justice Pardiwala, in a majority view, upheld 10% reservation for economically weaker sections, stating that it does not breach the basic structure of the Constitution.
In this background, reservation structured singularly on economic criteria does not violate any essential feature of the Constitution of India and does not cause any damage to the basic structure of the Constitution of India.
I have concurred with the opinion of Brother Justice Maheshwari.
While concurring with my esteemed brother, Justice Maheshwari, and my esteemed sister, Justice Bela Trivedi, and while upholding the validity of the imputed amendment, I have thought fit to observe, I quote, thus, reservation is not an end, but a means to secure social and economic justice. Reservation should not be allowed to become a vested interest.
While Chief Justice of India UU Lalit and Justice Ravindra Bhatt dissented with the majority view and said that exclusion of backward classes in 10% reservation for economically weaker sections is unconstitutional.
I regret my inability to concur with the views expressed by the majority opinion on the validity of the 103rd Amendment on question number 3. Our Constitution does not speak the language of exclusion. In my considered opinion, the amendment by the language of exclusion undermines the fabric of social justice and thereby the basic structure.
Chief Justice Lalit, on his last day in the Apex Court, concurred with the dissenting opinion of Justice Bhatt.
I have concurred with the view taken by Honorable Justice Lalit in its entirety.
After the landmark verdict in the reservation case, the outgoing Chief Justice held the ceremonial bench for one last time, along with designate Chief Justice Chandrachud. The lawyer for the petitioner cautioned that this may mean quota for the forward caste if not enough guardrails are put in place. The order comes as a boost to the BJP ahead of the Himachal and Gujarat polls. In Himachal Pradesh, it will help BJP impress the mostly upper caste population of the state, where Thakurs and Brahmins are 50% of the population. Also in Gujarat, the ruling will come in handy to assuage the Patel community that has been demanding quota. Political reactions have been cautious over the sensitive issue, while parties like the Congress and TMC welcome the verdict. DMK has spoken out against it, with MK Stalin calling the verdict a setback to social justice struggle, while the RJD called for a caste-based census immediately. The quota for poor is set to ignite the BJP versus the caste-based regional parties tussle even further.
Supreme Court Constitution Bench in a 3:2 majority has upheld the 10% reservation for the economically weaker section over and above the existing 50% reservation quota. But it has not answered on the question of states that already have over 50% reservation quota. That's where the experts say that the Supreme Court has opened a Pandora box. With camera person Xavier Thomas, this is Arvind Gunasekar for NDTV.
Now, Chief Justice UU Lalit retires on Tuesday. Now, while speaking at his farewell event organised by the Supreme Court Bar Association, he spoke about his journey in the judiciary and his work in the 74 days tenure as CJI. Justice Chandrachud, who is set to take over as the new Chief Justice of India, said that Justice Lalit had the unique distinction of being called to court as a lawyer and rising to become a Supreme Court judge.
That I came to mention a matter before the then Chief Justice, and that was my first appearance in Supreme Court. I mentioned the matter to get it listed, and the then Chief Justice was Justice Y.V. Chandrachud. So that was my first day, and I said in the afternoon that I'm passing on the baton which I received through successive Chief Justices onto the son of that illustrious Chief Justice. I had never seen my father as a judge, nor had I attended his swearing in. So I said, let me just go and see you. How does my father look as a judge on the bench? And that was the last day of my father as a judge, and I went to the court. And I saw the hustle bustle, I saw the lawyers, the way they addressed, the way the judges. I said, this is where I would like to be. You need to spare time and give it to that profession. As they say, law is a jealous mistress. So she demands time every time.
Let's move on now and to the high-octane campaign that is taking place in Himachal Pradesh ahead of the polls. So you have Priyanka Gandhi Vadra campaigning for the Congress party. On the other hand, JP Nadda, Yogi Adityanath, Rajnath Singh, the BJP pushing in all its big leaders in the hill state. Now, the BJP says that its schemes like demonetization and GST were successful because people voted for them again. Himachal is the first state after the Agniveer scheme brought for recruitments in the army where elections are now being held. Is Agniveer scheme an issue in the elections for the youth preparing for the recruitment in army? Let's find out.
19-year-old Sanam Thakur lives in Hamirpur, Himachal Pradesh. Every morning, in the bitter cold, he runs 15 kilometers to prepare for recruitment in the army. A dream of his. But for the first time, he's upset with the BJP due to the new Agniveer recruitment scheme, which sharply cut tenure to just 4 years.
बहुत हद तक है हमारे अंदर कि 4 सालों के लिए कर दिया है। इसका कुछ तो मतलब बच्चे करेंगे ही करेंगे सर। मतलब सरकार बदली भी जा सकती है और 4 साल से 4 साल होते गया है, 4 सालों का तो पता ही नहीं चलता है।
Most of the young boys preparing for army oppose the Agniveer scheme.
मैं तो 3 टाइम आता हूँ ना।
3 टाइम आते हो?
हाँ।
क्या सपने हैं? सेना में जाना है?
हाँ, सेना में जाना है।
सोच के जाओगे वोट डालने के लिए?
हाँ, बहुत नाराजगी है सर। बहुत गलत हुआ सर इतना।
बहुत गलत हो। वोट के जरिए आपके घर वाले क्या करेंगे? आप क्या करेंगे?
विरुद्ध है सर पूरे ही।
यस सर, मैं 18 का हूँ सर।
है वोटिंग आपकी?
जी सर है।
क्या सोच के जाओगे वोट डालना?
सर है, इस बार थोड़ा सोचा है कि मतलब अग्निवीर वाला जो सिस्टम किया वो अच्छा नहीं लग रहा, तो सरकार थोड़ी चेंज होनी चाहिए इस बार।
The Congress has seized it as a campaign issue.
आप माताएं अपने बेटों को भेजते हैं सरहद पे देश की रखवाली करने के लिए, और ये लोग क्या कर रहे हैं? सेना को ठेके पे दे रहे हैं।
The BJP understands the dissatisfaction of the youth, which is probably why Chief Minister Jairam Thakur or other big leaders are not talking about the Agniveer scheme in the Himachal campaign.
और हेल्थ का इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर,
ये जो आपने कहा एक बार भाजपा बार बार भाजपा, ये लड़ाई जयराम ठाकुर की नहीं है, ये लड़ाई हमारी नहीं है, ये लड़ाई आपके हक और हुकूक की है। इसको हमको समझना है।
In this hill state, the armed forces are a major job provider in the near absence of big industries.
From Prime Minister Narendra Modi to BJP President JP Nadda, all senior leaders of BJP are seeking votes on the name of abrogation of 370 from Kashmir, construction of Ram Temple, but they are tight-lipped about Agniveer scheme. Young voters hold the key in Himachal Pradesh. If they vote for BJP, then a message will go that Agniveer scheme has been stamped by youngsters, and if they vote for Congress, then there will be a big question on the scheme of Agniveer. In Hamirpur, with Ashok Mahale, Saurabh Shukla for NDTV.
Now, on the eve of Guru Nanak Jayanti, Prime Minister Narendra Modi participated in the 553rd birth anniversary celebrations of Guru Nanak at the residence of Iqbal Singh Lalpura, chairperson of the National Commission for Minorities. The teachings of the Sikh Gurus and the life of Guru Nanak are like a beacon of light showing the way to the world which is passing through a difficult phase, is what the Prime Minister said. Meta is now planning to begin large-scale layoffs this week that will affect thousands of employees, as per a Wall Street Journal report on Sunday, which cited people familiar with the matter, with an announcement expected on that front as early as Wednesday, though Meta has declined to comment on the WSJ report.
Is the Silicon Valley bubble about to burst? That seems to be the question on everyone's minds. Following Twitter's shocking layoffs last week amounting to 50% of the global workforce and 90% alone in India as per Bloomberg, Meta, the company behind Facebook and WhatsApp, is also getting ready to fire thousands of employees according to a Wall Street Journal report. The layoffs follow Meta's drastically reduced quarterly forecast that wiped off an additional $67 billion in value. The combination of rise in short video content, Apple's strong stance on privacy, lower ad spend, as well as global economic conditions have wiped off $500 billion in Meta's value so far. Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg has painted a grim outlook of the forecast and expects a long-term horizon for the company's investments in the metaverse to pay dividends. Similarly, Microsoft too is expected to cut staff. Apple too has placed a hiring freeze expected to last most of 2023. However, it takes a lot to run a social media platform, and Elon Musk might be realizing that perhaps the quick cull of employees was a bit too rash. While Musk was busy highlighting upcoming features like longer videos, web-based notes and creator monetization, many of those working on the features were fired. Several such employees are now being deemed too essential to enable the changes that the billionaire has been asking for and have been requested to rejoin Twitter. Additionally, some employees are now being told that they were fired in error. On the other hand, his public spats continue, this time with founder Jack Dorsey, who took responsibility for the layoffs. Dorsey also questioned Musk's assertion of taking steps to make information shared in Twitter accurate. And look who's capitalizing on Twitter's chaos. A rival microblogging social platform, Mastodon, that claimed to have gained over 2 lakh users since Elon Musk taking over Twitter. Launched in 2016, the platform is community funded and never really took off like Twitter did. But now with some celebrities crossing over to Mastodon, they are hoping the tide may change. Rubina Mongia, NDTV.
Now, can there be climate justice? Will the rich nations historically responsible for greenhouse gas emissions pay compensation to the more vulnerable developing world? It's on this year's Climate Summit, COP27 in Egypt.
The opening session will begin now. Thank you.
Leaders of the developed, rich nations arriving at the annual UN Climate Summit where they are under pressure. Given that historically the US, EU and other developed nations are responsible for over half of the greenhouse gas emissions which led to global warming, they face demands to pay for the loss and damage suffered by poor and developing nations. Loss and damage is on the agenda for the first time.
Specifically, it's time for an historic pact between the developed and the emerging economies. A pact in which developed countries deliver at the commitment made in Paris and make an additional effort to reduce emissions in line with 1.5 degree goal. And a pact in which wealthier countries provide financial and technical assistance.
While the goal is to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees by 2030, it's already at over 1.1 degrees Celsius over pre-industrial times. It is estimated that at 1.5 degrees, small island states like the Maldives will start to submerge. Beyond this devastation, natural calamities like heat waves, droughts, extreme rainfall are likely to be far worse than what we've seen this year. Temperatures are set to rise as much as 2.8 degrees Celsius by the end of the century with the current policies in place. In India alone, there have been lower crop yields, earlier and longer heat waves, as well as extreme rainfall. Yet, leaders of India and China, two of the top 3 global polluters, are not attending the summit.
And what we expect to happen in Sharm el-Sheikh is to agree on a new stream of finance to address loss and damage, the way scale and intensity of disasters are increasing.
It doesn't end here. Globally, record high temperatures in Europe and rivers drying up across the northern hemisphere are cause of major concern. The rich nations have resisted even accepting their role in loss and damages, let alone financing it. In a world roiled by economic uncertainty, the possibility of them loosening their purse strings does not appear to be bright, but climate diplomats will have much work to do in the next 2 weeks to make sure their plans and targets are accomplished. Parmeshwar Bava for NDTV.